It is the most recognized missing child case of the 21st century. For nearly 2 decades, the world has debated the actions of Kate and Gerry McCann. But today, the question echoing through this investigation isn't whether the parents were scrutinized too much. It's whether the right person escaped scrutiny in the first 48 hours. On the night of May 3rd, 2007, a 3-year-old vanished from her bed in a holiday apartment in Praia da Luz, Portugal. The Portuguese Polícia Judiciária focused on the parents almost immediately, eventually declaring them arguidos, formal suspects under Portuguese law. Yet a seemingly ordinary entry in a logbook and a quietly overlooked witness statement from that very night would eventually redirect the entire trajectory of this 17-year search. This is Praia da Luz, a serene picture postcard resort town on Portugal's Algarve coast. Apartment 5A at the Ocean Club housed the McCann family and their friends, a group dubbed the Tapas Seven. Their nightly ritual was simple: settle the children to sleep, walk the short distance of about 55 meters to the tapas bar, and return every 30 minutes to check on them. A routine born from comfort. A routine shattered at 10 p.m. when Kate McCann opened a bedroom door and found her eldest child gone. To understand what happened that night, we must dissect every credible trail. This investigation unfolds along 3 critical paths. The early suspicion placed on the parents by Portuguese authorities, the theory of abduction by a stranger, supported by key witness sightings, and the chilling allegations surrounding the German suspect, Christian Brueckner. Thursday, May 3rd, 2007. A warm, quiet evening settled over Praia da Luz. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann was put to bed alongside her 2-year-old twin siblings, Sean and Amelie, in the master bedroom of apartment 5A. At approximately 8:30 p.m., Kate and Gerry left to join their 7 friends, the Tapas Seven, for dinner at the nearby tapas bar. The restaurant was only 55 meters away, close enough to feel safe, far enough to rely on trust. They established a simple system: rotate child checks every 30 minutes. A straightforward plan designed for peace of mind. The first check of the night, one that would later become critical, took place around 9:05 p.m. Matt Oldfield, one of the friends, stopped by the McCann apartment while checking his own children nearby. He found the bedroom door slightly ajar. Unusual but not alarming. The twins, Sean and Amelie, were asleep. What he believed to be Madeleine's distinctive pink blanket appeared to be where it should be. Seeing no disturbance, he quietly left, closing the door behind him. Later investigation would reveal disturbing vulnerabilities. The ground floor patio door had reportedly been left unlocked. The bedroom shutter was later found raised and propped open. A window of opportunity, brief, silent, and devastating. At 10 p.m., Kate McCann returned for her check. The moment she pushed open the bedroom door, the atmosphere shifted. A draft moved the curtains. The window stood wider than it should, and Madeleine's bed, empty. Her scream tore through the stillness of the resort, drawing the group into sudden frantic panic. The small apartment, moments ago calm, erupted into chaos. The initial response was tragically disorganized. The GNR, Portugal's National Republican Guard, arrived first. The Polícia Judiciária came later. By then, holidaymakers had already searched the resort extensively, unknowingly compromising crucial forensic traces. No immediate scene containment, no systematic forensic sweep, no controlled perimeter. Vital evidence, fingerprints, footprints, DNA, was degraded or lost entirely. The vacuum left behind would soon be filled by suspicion, aimed at the very parents who raised the alarm. As global compassion poured toward the McCanns, a very different narrative was unfolding inside the walls of Portugal's Polícia Judiciária. What began as a missing child case began shifting, quietly but decisively, toward a criminal investigation centered on the parents themselves. That shift would fracture cooperation with British authorities and split public opinion in two. Leading the investigation in Portimão was Chief Inspector Gonçalo Amaral. From the start, his team viewed the parents' behavior through a lens of doubt, a common but often misguided approach in disappearance cases where home is the last known location. The scene offered no confirmed sign of forced entry. The window had been left open, and the family's composure under stress, combined with their reluctance to answer certain questions, was interpreted as something more sinister. Inside the PJ, a theory grew quietly, that what happened to Madeleine began inside apartment 5A. Months passed without progress. In August 2007, Portuguese authorities sought assistance from the UK. 2 specialist English Springer Spaniels were flown in. Eddie, an enhanced victim recovery dog, trained to detect the scent of human cadaver or decomposition. Keela, a forensic blood detection dog with extraordinary accuracy. The dogs were brought into apartment 5A, nearby areas, and the McCann's rental car. The results were electrifying. In apartment 5A, Eddie alerted in the master bedroom, near the wardrobe and behind the sofa in the living room. Keela indicated the same spots for possible blood traces. Eddie also alerted to Madeleine's stuffed toy, Cuddle Cat, which had been taken back to the McCann home in Rothley, UK. Most strikingly, both dogs alerted in the trunk and near the driver's door of the Renault Scenic hire car, rented by the McCanns 24 days after Madeleine disappeared. To the Portuguese investigators, these alerts were explosive evidence. To British forensic experts, they required careful, measured interpretation. What the dogs did and didn't mean would become one of the most contested elements of the entire case. On September 7, 2007, 4 months after Madeleine vanished, Kate and Gerry McCann were formally declared arguidos, suspects under Portuguese law. Media coverage exploded overnight. Headlines across Europe suggested dramatic developments. Whispers of a confession circulated online. No confession existed. No charges were filed, and the evidence presented was far from conclusive. Yet the damage was done. The grieving parents became the centerpiece of a legal and public storm that would follow them for years. The official PJ theory centered on the idea that Madeleine had died accidentally in the apartment, perhaps from a fall or fatal injury, and that Kate and Gerry, both trained physicians, had attempted to conceal her death to avoid blame. They theorized the body was kept hidden until the rental car could be hired weeks later to move it. The core evidence? The dog alerts for blood and human remains in the apartment, on the blanket, and in the car, coupled with the apparent lack of forced entry, suggesting the perpetrator had access to apartment keys. This hypothesis became the bedrock of Gonçalo Amaral's conviction. But one critical problem undermined this theory. The alerts in the Renault Scenic, hired 24 days after the disappearance. For cadaver scent to appear in a car acquired nearly a month later raised profound questions about the timeline Portuguese investigators had constructed. British forensic teams remained deeply skeptical. In July 2008, the Portuguese investigation was officially archived due to lack of sufficient evidence. Kate and Gerry McCann were cleared of their arguido status. But the drama did not end there. Just days after the case was archived, Gonçalo Amaral, who had been removed from the investigation in 2007, published his book, A Verdade da Mentira, The Truth of the Lie. The book publicly restated and detailed his theory that Madeleine had died in the apartment and that her parents had covered it up. This launched a decade-long legal war. The McCanns sued Amaral for libel in Portugal, seeking to protect their reputation and the integrity of the search for their daughter. The legal battles went through multiple appeals, the McCanns initially winning, then facing overturned rulings. These court fights underscored the immense personal toll the investigation and its aftermath took on the family. They also revealed a critical rift between the McCann's supporters and those who still believed the initial police theory. Despite the controversies, one question remained unanswered. If not the parents, then who had taken Madeleine? The initial investigation fixated on Kate and Gerry McCann, but from the very start, there was critical witness testimony supporting the McCann's claim of an abduction, testimony from friends and strangers alike, offering a fragmented picture of potential suspects, a picture that Portuguese police initially failed to assemble correctly. The key to solving this case may have been staring at investigators the entire time, overlooked for years. Within the Tapas Seven group, there were two crucial but conflicting sightings made around the time of the disappearance. At around 9:15 p.m., just after Matt Oldfield's check, Jane Tanner, a friend dining with the McCanns, walked past apartment 5A on her way to check her own children. She claimed to have seen a man walking away from the Ocean Club area, carrying a child dressed in pajamas. Jane described the man as medium build, not particularly tall, and moving with purpose. For years, this became the established narrative. A lone man had taken Madeleine shortly after 9 p.m., and arguably the most critical witness account came from an Irish family, the Smiths, who were vacationing at approximately 10 p.m., the precise moment Kate McCann was discovering Madeleine was missing. They observed this sighting occurred near the church on the beach road. The man was heading toward the ocean, toward an exit route. The Smith family description was distinct. The man was possibly wearing an overcoat or jacket and carrying a fair-haired child in what appeared to be pajamas. Their description suggested deliberate movement, not panic, but purpose. A man with a plan, a man with a destination. For years, the Portuguese police fixated on the Jane Tanner sighting, believing it represented the moment of abduction. They failed to fully appreciate the significance of the Smith family account, likely because it occurred slightly later and involved a different description. They prioritized the evidence of a stranger abduction. As Operation Grange meticulously combed through records, they unearthed an additional piece of testimony that had been buried in the initial chaos. A key witness reported seeing a man lurking outside apartment 5A just hours before Madeleine vanished. This suggested reconnaissance, planning, preparation. The theory developed. A possible burglary or opportunistic theft might have been underway. The intruder was startled, perhaps by a sound, a cry, a stirring child, and made a split-second decision. Grab the child, flee the scene. This theory aligned perfectly with the apartment's security flaws. The unlocked patio door, the raised shutter, and the absence of forced entry. The focus was now firmly on tracking down transient criminals operating in the area during that precise period. For years, the investigation into Madeleine McCann's disappearance was mired in conflicting theories and international disputes. It became a cold case, preserved only by the tireless work of Operation Grange and the unwavering hope of Kate and Gerry McCann. But the biggest breakthrough would come not from Portugal or the UK, but from Germany, when a convicted offender with a disturbing history was identified by investigators at the German Federal Criminal Police, the BKA. In June 2020, German prosecutors publicly identified a new prime suspect, Christian Brueckner. His name had surfaced in connection with the case years earlier via a tip-off, but it took international collaboration and methodical cross-referencing of evidence by German, British, and Portuguese police to establish him as the focal point. Brueckner is a German national with a history of sexual offenses against children and drug trafficking. Crucially, Brueckner lived in the Algarve region of Portugal intermittently between 1995 and 2007. At the time of Madeleine's disappearance, He was operating near Praia da Luz, living in a property just over a mile from the Ocean Club apartment. His lifestyle involved odd jobs, drifting between properties, and breaking into holiday apartments and hotels to steal valuables. A profile that aligned perfectly with the existing theory of a planned burglary or opportunistic theft. The central piece of evidence that placed Christian Brueckner at the heart of the crime scene is the mobile phone data. Investigators discovered records showing that a phone registered to Brueckner was pinged by a cell tower near the Ocean Club in Praia da Luz on the evening of May 3, 2007. The timing is chilling. The phone received a call that began at 7:32 p.m. and ended at 8:02 p.m., lasting nearly 30 minutes. This places the phone, and potentially Brueckner, in the immediate vicinity of apartment 5A in the hours leading up to the 10 p.m. discovery that Madeleine was gone. This phone data directly contradicts Brueckner's later claim that he was miles away from the resort that night. The tower doesn't lie, the signal doesn't deceive, the timeline doesn't forgive. Police also linked Brueckner to two key vehicles active in the area at the time. The first was a VW T3 Westphalia camper van, a distinctive early 1980s model with a yellow and white exterior, which he was known to have been using around Praia da Luz. The second was a 1993 Jaguar XJR6. In a significant move, investigators established that Brueckner officially re-registered the Jaguar into another person's name on May 4, 2007. The day after Madeleine vanished. The quick transfer of ownership of a vehicle immediately following a major crime strongly suggests an attempt to conceal his movements and assets. This evidence directly supports the abduction by stranger theory, where the perpetrator would have needed a vehicle to rapidly leave the resort area, and the foresight to cover his tracks. A man who knew what he was doing, a man who had done this before. Christian Brueckner is currently serving a 7-year prison sentence in Germany for the 2005 rape of an elderly American woman in Praia da Luz, a crime that demonstrates his violent history in the exact location where Madeleine disappeared. He has consistently and vehemently denied any involvement in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, though German prosecutors have stated publicly that they believe he abducted and murdered the child. They have yet to file formal charges specifically related to the McCann case. They cite a need for robust, direct evidence admissible under German law, evidence that meets the high threshold required for prosecution. The investigation is ongoing. Prosecutors continue to strengthen their case, piece by piece. The new evidence paints a powerful and unified picture. The man from the Smith sighting, who resembled Brueckner's profile and physical description, the mobile phone ping, placing him at the scene during the critical time window, the re-registered van and Jaguar, showing an immediate effort to cover his tracks the day after Madeleine vanished. The current focus of the German investigation is clear. They believe the sheer chaos of the initial flawed Portuguese police investigation allowed Christian Brueckner to remain hidden in plain sight for 13 years, a shadow operating within the quiet resort of Praia da Luz. The pieces of the puzzle, once scattered and ignored, are now assembled, pointing investigators toward a single compelling conclusion. 17 years have passed since 3-year-old Madeleine McCann disappeared from her bed in Praia da Luz. The emotional and legal wreckage left behind is vast, encompassing 2 nations, dozens of theories, and the collapse of international trust. The story of this investigation is not just about a missing child. It is a profound lesson in systemic failure, the corrosive power of media speculation, and the enduring resilience of a family seeking truth. We have chronicled the critical errors, the failure of the Portuguese police to immediately secure the crime scene at apartment 5A, the long-term fixation on Kate and Gerry McCann as arguidos, based on highly ambiguous sniffer dog evidence, the delay in properly pursuing key witness testimony, like the crucial Smith family sighting that may have pointed toward the real perpetrator from day one. This case underscores the immense challenge of cross-border investigations, where different legal systems, languages, and police cultures initially hampered cooperation. The investigation became a media circus, where public opinion and conjecture often overshadowed the meticulous, painstaking work of detectives. Today, the focus is squarely on Christian Brueckner, but the case is not solved. It will only be closed when Madeleine's whereabouts are confirmed, or when German authorities gather sufficient admissible evidence to prove her fate beyond a reasonable doubt. The current investigation, led by German prosecutor Hans Christian Wolters, presents the most concrete evidence we have ever seen, based on mobile phone data, vehicle transfers, and Brueckner's criminal profile in the Algarve. But the truth remains elusive. The McCanns continue their fight, sustained by the hope that one day they will know what happened to their daughter. This tragic mystery forces us to confront a final, powerful question. In an investigation scarred by misdirection and lost opportunities, what was the singular moment, the single piece of evidence that could have changed the outcome on that night in May 2007? What do you believe happened? Who was responsible, and why? Share your reasoned theory in the comments below. If this documentary has informed your perspective or challenged your assumptions, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dive investigations into cases that demand answers. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next upload.